Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit nbda.com.
Hey mobile retailers, we have an exclusive offer just for you. Join the NBDA today for only $145 a year. That's a $50 savings on your mobile retailer membership with code BRR50. As a member, you'll unlock incredible benefits like exclusive education through webinars and on-demand learning, networking through monthly virtual events connecting mobile retailers across North America, business tools including templates, consulting, and resources, financial support through discounts and financing programs, and affordable health insurance options for your team. Let us help your business thrive this year and beyond. Use code BRR50 at checkout to save $50 on your annual membership today. Code is valid for any new member on an annual membership.
All right, listeners, welcome back. You're in the right spot. This is our Retail Design Flex, and we are so happy you are here. The Retail Design Flex is our ongoing podcast feature focused specifically on store design, remodeling, and merchandising. And we produce this in partnership with NBDA Association member, the one and only Fixture Lab. Brian, nice to have you here.
It is lovely to be here.
Happy February. Happy birthday. We're recording on a very special day. It's okay. It's okay.
I don't feel a day over 5 years over my real age.
Okay. Well, Brian, with that, listeners, with that, we're doing something very special today. We have a special guest who has joined us. Corey
Dun, 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 dun,
Lamar,
dun.
Lamar's, Iowa, owner of Bike Central. Corey, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here, and happy birthday, Brian.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh, we have never done this before.
No, this is really big. We're really going out on a limb. Corey, if you start giving us bad answers or if you're not contributing well, we're just going to cut you off and say your connection dropped.
All right, I'll do my best.
Brian, why is Corey on the podcast? We want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I want to know too. No, just kidding.
Corey called me because Corey had been listening to episodes of this Fancy Pants podcast, and he had really good questions, wanted some help on designing a new space for his store in Iowa. And as we started to work through the early stages of the process, I thought, he's familiar with the podcast. This is a really great case study. Why not change gears from what we've done before and actually share with the actual retailer here what's going on in the very, very early stages of this store design.
This is relatable. This is awesome. And Corey was like, yes. Corey, you're cool.
Yeah, well, I will say when Brian first asked me, I didn't know that I would actually be on the podcast. So I think it was a few steps down the road I figured that out. But no, this is great. It's fun to have the opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on with the shop here. So I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, we kept it secret for a little while. Once we had you hooked though, then it was like, oh, and you're going to be on it. you're going to be
Right.
on camera.
We're very friendly. Listeners, you know the routine. Fixture Lab has been in bike shop merchandising and design for years. They work with retailers so they know how hard it can be. They also know what works, and they create solutions for bicycle retailers that pay off big time. But they don't just work in the bicycle industry, they also work in running, fly fishing, and outdoor sports. So we're really getting Brian's complete knowledge from working within several industries to help us make cutting edge spaces. But besides the spaces, they also have a full line of store fixtures, amazing displays for wheels, for pedals, for helmets, shoes. So definitely go online, check it out, fixturelab.com. This is a bi-monthly feature that we answer your questions. And Brian, I don't know about you, but our inbox has been blown up recently with retailers reaching
Now,
out to us. They're like,
I
help.
know.
It's been awesome, right?
I talk to retailers all the time, like Corey. Like, I would say a few times a week, I get a phone call from somebody who says, I was listening to the podcast the other day and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And they
It
might
happens.
have questions about just about anything, or they might want to dig in like Corey and do a new store.
It's really fun. It's really
So I encourage everybody to send in your questions, send in your pictures, your videos, whatever you want, because it's real. We're actually attacking real problems here and helping retailers solve their problems.
It's really fun. So you can send videos, photos, questions, design at nbda.com. We've had a couple recently about service center layout, cash and wrap. Any other topics, Brian, that come to your mind?
Well, I just brainstormed a couple that I might have heard recently.
Very nervous, but yeah.
No, no, you don't even have to be nervous about these. Your question might be, I need to do a better job of merchandising, but I have to be careful right now to not spend too much money. How do I prioritize the things I'm going to spend money on?
That's a good question.
Good question, right? Couldn't I just buy a router bit and make my own slat wall?
Hmm.
That was a real question.
Okay. All right.
Real question. Okay, my landlord is pushing me to sign on the bottom line, but I don't have a plan for the store yet. Should I do it?
Oh my gosh, that's a big
I
question.
know. Edge of the seat.
All right. Well, those are good
Well, those are
questions.
the kinds of things.
Any questions, listeners, over to
Any.
design at nbda.com. Brian, I have like three that came in yesterday that I got to send you to that came just to me. So it's
Oh
for,
no.
we're doing good stuff.
Right.
Corey,
Exactly.
are you like, hello, Corey, I'm over
No,
here. Hey,
sorry.
Heather, Brian, pay attention.
It's uncomfortable when you're not the one talking, isn't it? Because you just have to sit there and look happy.
It's all good. We're doing
Everybody's
good.
watching you. Everybody's just like staring at Corey, like, did he comb his hair this morning?
Yeah.
Goodness. All right, listeners, if you have tuned us out for the past 5 minutes because we're a little crazy and you know the intro and you're just coming back with us, Corey is a bike retailer like yourself, and he is ready to move to a new location. He reached out to Brian at Fixture Lab, and Brian reached out to me and said, hey, Heather, I know this really great looking guy named Corey. And next thing you know, here we are, right?
I did not say great
Here we
looking,
are.
but yeah.
Hey, Corey, you're a listener, so you know what's going to happen today. You're ready. You're comfortable.
All
Is
right,
there
get to
Yep.
the store. I want to hear about the
Yeah.
store.
Okay. Tell us about your current store, where it's located, how big it is, maybe some of your brands. Just give us a mental picture. What's a
Yeah.
quick.
Sounds good. So we're located in Lamar's, Iowa, which is in the northwest corner of Iowa. So, a few bigger cities around us, maybe Sioux City, Iowa, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We're kind of right between those two bigger cities.
Would
Um,
Lamar's be the place that Lamar's donuts are from?
that is a great question. We are not famous for donuts that I know of, but we are famous for ice cream, actually.
Uh,
So
Sorry,
yes.
back to the shop, please. Back to the shop.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
oh.
yeah. Brian actually has a map of Lamar's behind him there. So if you look real close, maybe you can see our shop. Not quite, but yeah. So about 2 to 3,000 square feet. Both I would say the current location, the new location, as far as size goes. Um, I usually have roughly between 50 and 60 bikes in inventory at one time. Um, Currently, the biggest brands that we carry are Specialized and Cannondale and Aventon would kind of be the big three. There's several other smaller brands kind of interspersed in there. Um, Yeah, so I actually took over ownership of the shop roughly about a year ago. And at that time, when I bought the shop, basically the current space that I'm in, the landlord also runs a business out of this space. And so he had kind of communicated to me like, hey, I'm going to be expanding my business with this kind of timeline. And so I knew out of the gate that I was going to need to find a new location. And so that was one of my first big tasks was trying to locate a new building and going from there. So um, yeah, that's a little bit of background and on the shop here.
Thank you. I did a little quick Google review or Google search on your store. I mean, your current location looks beautiful. I mean, it looks really inviting. So, um, yeah, I'm excited to see kind of the feedback Brian's given you and where we're at now.
So I want to know, Corey, in the very early stages of this process,
Yeah.
where's your head at? Where has your head been? Like what worries you? What
Mhm.
concerns you? What are you excited about? Or where do you expect the biggest hurdles to be in the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, over the last year, as I visit other bike shops, I'm always trying to pick up like little pieces of, hey, this looks nice, or hey, maybe I do this a little bit different. And I think, we've probably all been in like retail spaces where you just walk in and you're like, it just feels right. Like, I mean, the lighting, how things are laid out, like it just feels right. And I think we've maybe all been in locations where maybe it didn't feel quite right. So I kind of had this grand vision of like, I want a space where people are feeling invited and they like to be there, but feeling completely overwhelmed as far as like how to actually design a space like that. I mean, there's so much that goes into it as far as where stuff is laid out and the lighting and what kind of fixtures to use. That's where I felt like I definitely needed some help was just the overall design, and obviously with your expertise, Brian, it's been a huge help and benefit there. So
So, how about budget? I'm not asking you for your budget, but are you
mhm.
concerned or were you concerned about how you could make this thing work financially?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I would say, prior to talking to you, it was hard to budget because I didn't necessarily know what a lot of this stuff costs either, right? Like, how much do retail fixtures cost? I don't know. How much does retail lighting cost? I really have no idea, right? So, yeah, Brian, you recommended kind of like a 2-hour sit down and talk through kind of all the budget points, which was amazingly helpful to get a big picture idea of how much is all this going to cost. Sorry about that. Um, and yeah, so I would say I was not comfortable until our meeting, and now I have a good idea of where we're headed with the budget and something that we can compare to as we actually go through this build out. So
Heather, the budget process that Corey's talking about is the one that we've shared before.
Hmm.
It's a Google spreadsheet that you can, I don't remember the episode.
I'll
Um,
show notes to it. We'll find it. Yeah,
okay.
in there. Yeah.
That is what I took Corey through. And um, it's always valuable. Even if you're not going through it with someone like me who has a lot of firsthand experience, at least going through all those line items in the budget really helps to take some big, scary, dark places out of the process of starting this store.
Yeah. Can I ask a question of Corey? Is that right?
yeah,
Okay.
yep,
So, Corey, are you
Sure.
nervous or are you excited or a little bit of both? Like where are you at? It's gonna be
yeah,
a big move.
yeah, it is. I mean, I think anytime there's a big change, it brings a little bit of nerves with it, but I would say mostly excited. Yeah, this current space is great. It actually used to be a way back when a car dealership, so there's some big cool windows and stuff like that, which you might see later. But the new space, it's an old building. It's built in like the 1880s. It's a really cool old building, and basically it's going to get fully redone, fully remodeled, and so that's really exciting because it's kind of a blank slate in a lot of ways. Like um, I can kind of design
Speaking of
it.
blank slate, his
Yeah,
space doesn't have any plumbing for a bathroom.
Oh boy.
yeah.
Is this, are we locked in? Is this the space that like you've chosen the space where there's no
Mhm.
goes back? We're in, right? This new space.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, it's chosen. And um, initially, I'll be renting the space, and my landlords have been amazing. They want the bike shop to succeed and be in our community, and so they've been very accommodating for my ideas and everything like that, which has been a huge blessing for the project too. So So far, yeah, all the boxes are getting checked, and I would say a little nervous, but mostly excited.
So in this stage of the process, usually the landlord is a problem because the landlord would really like to get someone to sign on the bottom line. They'd like to get the rent coming in. They want to get things moving along, and they may offer things that they're going to do to the space, but they're kind of in a rush. And usually at this point, which is the conversation I had with Corey, but turns out his landlord is a dream. Um, Usually you have to say, hold on, I need to do some plans for the space before I can commit to this thing, make sure everything's going to work so that when you go to put in lighting or plumbing or flooring or whatever it is, Mr. Landlord, because you're being so nice to offer that, I want to make sure it's the right stuff. For
Mm.
me, there's no sense in you going in and putting in lighting that doesn't work for my store. So let me go through the process really quickly. That's the appropriate order of things. I wouldn't ever recommend signing on the bottom line and then starting the design process if you can possibly do it. I know it's a challenge sometimes, but Corey's landlord has been really amazing and is offering to do a lot of things that you don't see very often. So this is awesome.
We are Bivo, a stainless steel cycling water bottle company. The idea for Bivo came from the realization Robbie and I had when our daughter was young. We didn't want to feed her out of plastic bottles, and as we were searching for safe, non-plastic alternatives, we realized that we too used plastic bottles every time we exercised. It was wild for us to realize that metal bottles for cycling didn't exist, so we created one. With a universal cage fit and a high flow rate, Bivo bottles are the go-to bottle for cyclists ready for a cleaner, faster, and a more fun drinking experience.
Oh, I'm excited. So do we have pictures to show? Oh, look at that.
It just so happens.
So listeners, if you are in the car, maybe on a bike ride, out walking the dog, what have you,
Just hold the phone up there on your steering wheel in front of you while you're driving. And
Brian gives a lot of great advice, but that is not one of those. Let's say get home, get to the office, and go into your, hunker down and pull open the YouTube and look at the images online. Lots of good stuff here.
okay, so Corey, this is the store. The image that we're looking at is your current store, correct?
It is, yep.
Okay. And it's not actually, I remember it's not actually current because now you have a Rudy rack, a bike rack where these bikes are on the floor here, right?
That's correct. Yep, we have some
Okay.
two-tier racking kind of up against those windows to get more bikes in the showroom.
Corey's found some Rudy racks. They were from another store, right?
Correct. Yep.
So what we're doing in the design process is kind of taking inventory of that kind of stuff. If Corey has that, we're going to use it. So
Mhm.
we'll do that, and then we can design that into the store. So you'll see that when we get to the 3D model, you'll see the racks that Corey's talking about in the store. Okay, so
Beautiful store.
what I'm going to take us through here is a bit of Corey's wish list that he's sent to me. We're going to look at pictures of the store the way it exists today, because that helps to inform this whole process. And then I have the floor plans from the landlord and Corey's original floor plan ideas for the store. And I did a quick 3D model as we've seen before that helps us to get a realistic grasp of how things kind of connect in the three-dimensional space. Sound good?
This is fun. I'm
Sounds
excited.
great.
Okay, so Corey did a great job of itemizing some things that were on his mind that are important. So, things like natural wood accents being important, wanting it to have some crunchy kind of texture or natural kind of finishes. Dividing out bikes by mountain road, hybrid, electric, that kind of thing. So separating things out so it's not a one big blob in the store. Uh, Corey's got some great vintage bikes that we might want to hang around the store. Heather, we've run into this exact thing before when we're covering stores. Because,
Mhm.
guys doing shops are always bike enthusiasts, and they usually have bikes of their own from their past that they want to show off. So we're going to be able to do that inside this space.
Wow.
New modern look of the showroom and shop, but with accents that pay homage to the history of cycling and the timelessness of cycling. So we kind of want a new and an old kind of a look to it, which is great. Digital service menu near the workshop area. He's thinking initially that for Fixture Lab, for my help, we would be helping with the overall design layout of the showroom, selecting fixtures, coming up with a plan for fixtures and lighting. And then the way that we work, which you can imagine, is anything that Corey's going to need throughout the whole process. He could always jump back in and say, we need help with a special bike display, or how do we show shoes, or how about these graphics or the signage or whatever. But this is the initial short list of things that Corey's really interested in our help on. And then if we go into the store, the ceiling that we're about to look at is going to be completely redone to accommodate plumbing on the second story. So there's going to be a new drop ceiling with 2 by 2 foot squares put in. The new ceiling is going to be 12 feet high. We'll look at that. The lighting plan, the landlord's open to us suggesting stuff, which is great because we'll be able to really make sure things are done the right way for us. Planning on LVP, luxury vinyl planks. Do you remember that, Heather? We've talked about those before. No,
Yeah,
don't do that face.
sure.
Of course
Yeah.
you remember that. Luxury vinyl planks. It's vinyl flooring that looks, most often it's like a wood texture, but it can look like stone or it can look like anything. There's lots and lots of different things out there. Planks or tiles. He's got the flooring company there, which is awesome. Okay, upstairs bathroom. Per landlord, should not be any limitations on bathroom placement. This is really weird for this space not to have plumbing for a bathroom since 1880s. I mean, I can understand it being built that way in the beginning, maybe. It must have been part of another space in the building that had a bathroom, so this one never needed a bathroom. I don't know. So we have to think about where the bathroom would go, which is an unusual. Usually there's like a sewer pipe coming up out of the floor, so you know exactly where the bathroom's going to be unless you really, really want to move things. Needs to be ADA compliant. That's no problem. Bike shower downstairs, so a bike wash kind of a thing. The landlord's open to that in the basement. So we'll have to talk through what that's going to take, what kind of style, how to do that cost effectively, that kind of stuff. Landlord's completely planning on redoing the front of the building to remove leaded glass and that kind of stuff. I want to look at that when we get to the 3D model too. The front door width, I wanted to ask you a question because Corey and I haven't actually talked through this whole list yet.
Yep.
The new front door width, because of the way the space is designed, you can't just put a wider door in that spot. Does that mean you're thinking about erasing the whole way that the front works?
I think that's on the table a little bit. I mean, right now, as we'll see in the pictures, the glass kind of comes back to the front door, kind of tapers back. There was a thought of moving the front door a little closer to the street. I mean, if you moved it a foot, maybe a foot closer to the street, you'd get a little bit more room. I just know in my current space, especially with newer, wide bar mountain bikes, stuff like that, like it's actually pretty tricky for people to get their bikes in the door sometimes. And so is it a necessary thing? No, but is it maybe a wish list thing to go with a little bit wider door and just help the flow in and out of the building? I think it would be. So
Okay. So I'm thinking, is 31 the width of the door in the space we're looking at here, or is that the one you're currently in?
that was my current one.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't measured the new one yet, so I'm not exactly sure if it's the same or where that
You're
would
right.
compare. But
31 is like crazy narrow for today's bikes. Like you're always going to run into
yeah, you
problems
kind of
with
got to
that.
like turn it sideways and shuffle your way through. And yeah,
It looks to me, and I don't have that dimension obviously, but it looks to me like the door in this new space is wider. Not much. It's probably 40 inches, which is a lot better than 31. But
it would be. Yes. Yep.
and in this case, redoing the whole front of the store there, even if the landlord's paying for it, we got to approach cautiously because it's probably going to open up a can of worms somehow.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. It could turn into something costly and something that takes a long time to do because we're talking old building and you never know what you're going to run into. So we'll have to approach that cautiously, I guess. Possibility to add some windows in the rear for natural light. So you're right. It says Corey says this could reduce the space we can merchandise. That's absolutely true. There's a weird, I don't even think I have it in the pictures, but a weird metal building that's behind the main structure that will be removed. So that goes away. Landlord prefers metal signage that's lit from the front versus the rear. These are really great things that Corey's making notes on.
Mhm.
Pat you on the back. Like you're touching on a whole bunch of the things that we would ask or forget to ask in the first meetings, and you're really going through it nicely.
Thanks, Brian.
Uh, Current horizontal beam divider above the door will be removed to open up the space. We'll look at that soon. Requested keep the small platforms to allow easier window displays. We'll look at that. There's an AC unit in the front door, in the front wall above the door. That'll be removed because there's central stuff going in. Gosh. Um, the landlord's exploring whether the half wall in the basement can be removed. We'll look at that. And I was shocked when Corey told me that that was on the table because I can't imagine that being a good thing. But I mean, a doable, easy thing, let's say. Um, we have the option of moving stairs from the front of the space to the back of the space. And when we look at the 3D model, well, actually, when you look at these pictures here in a second, you're going to see what a nice thing that might be. Okay, so now we're going to look at the upstairs. This is the outside of the building. I
Okay.
think that says 1883 up there. 18, I don't want to zoom in and ruin the view here, but this is what we're talking about with that doorway with the windows going back to it. Those are just graphics on the windows, obviously. There's leaded glass above those doors or above those windows up there. It's a great old building.
And is this
It
like,
is a super cool old building.
is this like in a busy shopping district? So there's other retail locations around you?
Yep. So it is right downtown, kind of on our central avenue where all the um, main businesses are. It's a great location as far as foot traffic, and also I mentioned ice cream. We have like a ice cream parlor pretty much right across the street that a lot of people visit through the year, and so being in that proximity is good too. So
Love it. Looks good.
This is just inside, obviously, the front door. So you can see these are the platforms that we just mentioned keeping so that we could do window display. Is this the thing that you were saying, Corey, that is planned to be removed up here?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
So they're gonna take all that out to kind of open it up that way.
Okay. Going down. Okay, now I kept these couple pictures in here because you can see how close to the front door the stairs are.
Hmm.
And it's an odd thing too, because the walls
Yeah.
are short around the stairs. Like I'm surprised that anybody could ever do that because you could back up and fall down the stairs by tripping over this wall.
Oh, that
Yeah,
doesn't look.
it's not great.
And you've got a landing in the middle, narrow stairway, landing right by the front door. All these things are bad for a bike shop.
But
When you can,
this is our space though. This is our space.
yeah, I mean, I wanted to get Corey on here so I could tell him this whole thing's a terrible idea.
Ouch. Well, that's why so we just recently, I mean, within like the last week, as the landlord's kind of gotten in here and doing some initial remodeling, he mentioned there actually used to be, from what he can tell, some stairs in the back of the building.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, they're not there anymore, but he basically said, um, if you think it would be best, we probably have the option to move the stairs. And I was like, I mean, I think that's a great idea. That would transform kind of how you walk in and what this space feels like when you walk in the front door. So that's a new development within the last few days here.
Yeah, that would removing this, if we can, will change it from this being an enormous waste of very valuable space in the front of the store
Hmm.
to the perfect spot in the front of the store,
Wow, that sounds like a wonderful landlord.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so take a look at the ceiling, which will be covered at least by the new drop ceiling. And Corey, you said the ceiling is 13 feet?
Yeah, it's currently, we measured it at 13 feet. But I know, so up above this, there's going to be some living quarters that they're remodeling as well. Um, and so I know they have to get in there to do, plumbing for the second story. So my understanding is this whole ceiling's kind of coming down, and then they're going to do a new drop ceiling, which I'm estimating will be at about 12 feet height.
Okay, so if the new drop ceiling is at 12, that means that the new drop ceiling cuts the leaded glass portion up front in half. Has that been talked about?
Yeah, like I said, I think they're planning on taking that whole leaded glass section out. Because I mentioned it's not very energy. It doesn't hold heat or air.
I'm sure it leaks like a sieve when it comes to
Exactly.
heat. Yeah.
Not efficient. That's the word I'm looking for. So I think they're taking that whole section out. So I don't think it'll interfere with where the new ceiling hits there.
Okay. Okay. It's a little teeny bit of a drag because it actually lets in some good light. Yes, Heather.
Okay, a lot of retailers I think are like kind of going away from drop ceilings, like that makes the space feel crowded. Why are we not promoting that here? Like, why are we looking at a drop ceiling?
Because we're going to have big, ugly pipes and stuff going through below this ceiling.
Okay, all right.
So
Yeah,
it'll be ugly up there. Now, you could use an option like putting in a ceiling grid, but not using the tiles and and painting everything above that a dark color. That would be another option for this kind of thing. The drop ceiling does offer some positives. Like I'm not a huge fan of the drop ceiling look just because there's nothing very special about it. But once you've got the drop ceiling, dropping in lights is a piece of cake. Does give you easy access to put in all the electrical, things like that. You can move things around a little bit, and that's nice. The sound characteristics of a drop ceiling are nice. Um, I might not recommend a white drop ceiling because that feels like office building to me. Maybe something that's got darker tiles on it.
sure.
And
Yeah, I guess.
we want to draw the attention down anyway. So what we're going to try and do is make the ceiling disappear.
Okay, all right.
And Heather, I think that is one thing I don't know that they've necessarily given me an option on because, like Brian said, they're running a lot of plumbing and HVAC stuff up to the second floor above this space. Um, so that's maybe one thing I wasn't given an option on, but they did say they'd work with me on kind of tile design and color. So I would have some options there. So
Okay, so Corey, talk about the flooring because now since we first talked about this, you've been back in the space, right?
yeah, yeah. Currently, it just looks like subfloor. So it will need completely covered, and that's kind of where we were thinking with the LVP would be a nice look there, and for durability too.
Have you talked with any contractors about putting that in? Yeah.
I have not yet, no.
Is the landlord's not going to pay for that, are they?
I would need to check with them. I think it's possible, but we would need to confirm that. So
If they're willing, like lean on them for that.
yeah, that's a big expense for sure.
When I'm looking at this, I don't have any close-up pictures and I haven't obviously been there. But the thing that worries me is if does it look like maybe there was carpet glued down to a wood subfloor at one point?
I would say that's possible. Yeah, maybe some adhesive residue there. Yeah,
Right. Um, because it's wood, because we're talking adhesive, it feels to me like we're in danger of needing some major work to be done to prep for vinyl tile.
yeah, you might be right, Brian. I guess we just haven't quite gotten far enough down that road to
I
to know
mean,
that. Yeah,
um, I think it would be worth asking someone who's an expert that might be able to install this stuff to come out, take a look at this early so that if this is a can of worms here, you can deal with the landlord. You can just talk realistically about what's in store here for you.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Um, the other options that we would have if the floor prep is going to be too much of a nightmare for LVP, because the LVP is great. It's very forgiving because it's flexible and stuff. But if the floor isn't able to be prepared in a good enough way, it's going to imperfections in the floor be transmitted visually up through the floor. So you'd see like stuff going on.
Right.
Um, if that turns into too much of a nightmare, we could, I mean, shoot, you could do wood floor over the top of it. That would be quite expensive. You could also go back to carpet, which I never recommend for a bike shop because of all the drawbacks that we can imagine. But in the scheme of things, that's how some of these decisions get made.
Hmm.
Yeah, we might, it could be that the lesser of the evils is to pick a great commercial grade carpet that fits the look of the place. I'm not a fan, but it could be something like that needs to happen.
Yeah. I guess if we do end up going that route, my request would be like just where the workshop area is, that would be some sort of hard surface because that's kind
Yeah.
of, where the majority of grease and dirt are going to get
Yep.
maybe dropped on the floor. And so, um,
100%.
yep.
Yeah, it's hard to look at these pictures and understand really what's going on with the floor. There's obviously some work that needs to be done on this back wall. Is this, Corey, is this a door that goes out the backside?
Yeah, kind of right in the middle there, kind of where that cinder block is. I think that's where the door space is. It's just kind of boarded up right now. Um,
Does that go? I know there's the metal building out back, but I'm not sure how this door connects to the outside. Is there a stairway or something?
um,
Or is it
there's
ground
not a
level?
stairway. It is ground level. I mean, there could be a step, I guess. I'm not sure if it's flush with the ground, but it basically walks right out into that metal building in the back that will be torn down.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna go down to the basement. And I don't want to spend too much time on the basement for this conversation because time,
Yep.
but it's interesting. It's a basement from the 1880s, short ceiling, wood wood beams. There's even like a tree trunk in here that holds up part of the basement. And this green wall, this is the half wall that we mentioned when we were going through that list. That half wall that might be removed. So it's a
Which will
cinder
not be an easy
block
task.
half wall. And the thing I think about when I hear that is this was a pain in the butt to build. And I don't think that they would have built that like that unless they absolutely had to. So I wonder what this is, what that structure is jogging around. Like, is there I don't know, a sewer pipe
Yeah, that's a
or an ancient Indian burial ground, a subway? I don't know. But there's a back door to the basement space. It'll be great for bike storage, and I'm sure you'll be able to do some work down there. Really a huge blessing to have a basement, especially if we can move that stairway.
yep,
And hopefully we can move the stairway and not have a landing in the middle of the stairway when all is said and done. So you have one flight of stairs to go straight up and they're nice and wide and you can get around with the bikes. That'll be great.
yep. Yeah, I think like you said, Brian, I mean the plan for this space is, overflow storage, bike storage for customers' bikes, who have gotten tuned up or whatever, and maybe some overflow workshop space if we need it.
Is this fire damage?
Well, or I mean, there used to be like a coal chute down there, and
Yeah,
probably it's probably coal. It could just be soot from coal from when it was heated with coal.
interesting. Oh yeah, I could see that. There's probably a boiler sitting down there at one point.
Mhm. Wow, what an interesting space. I really like this. Thank you guys.
I mean, you can kind of smell the space by looking at the pictures, right?
Sure.
I know what this old 1880s basement smells like. Okay, here is the floor plan from the landlord that gives us some dimensions, which is very valuable. You wouldn't think that getting this kind of a floor plan from a landlord would be hard, but it is. It feels like it always is a problem to get. So this gave me some very important initial dimensions to build the model that we're going to look at. And we can see where the stairs are. You can imagine the location of a new set of stairs. And then here is the plan from the landlord for the basement.
You can see coal chute right on there. So
Yep.
I know it was heated by coal.
Interesting stuff. There's the wood beams. Okay, so now this is Corey did this before we talked.
Oh, nice job, Corey.
Did you? I think you did this in Excel, right?
Yeah, I basically, yeah, tried to
Wow.
overlay some things in Excel, and I don't know, I thought it was a good start.
It was a great start. So each of the squares is a foot. So that's how he's scaling things, which is super valuable because then you can see if your bikes are actually to scale, at least approximately. So this kind of thing is great to let me know where Corey's head is at in terms of the arrangement of the store, how many bikes he wants to try and fit in there, the features, that kind of stuff. So we have rows of bikes here, and usually when they're indicated like this, it's like a two-tier rack, usually. These days with electric bikes, there's a lot of bikes on the floor. So that could be a row of electric bikes too. Some sort of hitch rack display there. Sorry. A new bathroom back in the back. These dotted lines here with the pink dots represent merchandising for accessories, right, Corey?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then we have a service counter, a couple bikes on stands to be worked on with workbenches. What was this box? Is this a just another work counter?
To be honest, I don't quite remember what my thought was with that.
Okay.
So,
And then we have what could potentially be a cash counter, like a point of sale counter up here. And then we got to relate all that to what's going on with the stairs and that kind of stuff.
Our team is so excited for May 22nd because this day is all about helping retailers excel in the growing e-mobility market. From expert-led discussions on sales trends, cutting-edge service techniques, to reviews of essential safety protocols, E-Mobility Day is packed with everything you need to stay ahead. Whether you're a seasoned e-bike retailer or just getting started, this is an event that helps you meet the demands of today's customers. Don't miss it. E-Mobility Day at the 2025 Retailer Summit. Head to nbda.com to register.
So I want to take you to the model. Hold on, I have to stop my share and reshare again. I did a little bit more work, Corey, just so that it would be easier to see how things relate. Like I knocked out the spaces in the front that are glass.
yep.
So basically, we're looking at the same floor plans. I put the basement next to this building. Later on, we'll put it downstairs when we actually size things up 100% accurately.
This is
How you
super
doing,
cool, by
Heather?
the way.
Super cool. Love when he does this.
Okay, so we've got the this is accurately dimensioned. So everything's right here except for the heights. We'll look when I get inside the space. I didn't have the ceiling height or the wall heights, that kind of stuff when I did this. I was just kind of guessing visually. So that part's not accurate, but everything else is pretty darn accurate. All right, Heather, pop quiz.
Okay, I'm ready. Knew it was
What
gonna.
is the thing? Where does your eye go to a potential problem?
Well, I, well, okay, here's what I see.
Here it is. Here it comes.
I just see, well, the stairs are still jumping out at me. I see
Yeah,
a lot of bikes on one side and then
right.
or one side, and then I just see those couple repair things in the middle, like the service shop looks really open and it looks like people just aren't gonna know where to go. Um, I don't know. Maybe I failed the quiz. I don't know. It just seems
No, you didn't fail the quiz. Okay, so here's the red flags that Corey and I talked about when I built this model from his plans so that we could look at the reality of the way that everything fits together because everything's perfectly scaled in my model and it helps. Um, the long row of bikes to me is a red flag
Mhm.
because you're not differentiating anything in this long row of bikes. Like
that was
even
one of his wish list items, remember?
exactly.
Attention.
Yeah.
I think that
So it
became
seems
a
like we
wish
need
list
to.
item after I saw this, Heather.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So it's amazing how valuable this is because immediately I was able to see like, yeah, this isn't the best way to do things. Um, that's why I
Yeah. So
think,
even if it's
yeah.
breaking things up, kind of like this kind of a thing where you have bikes and then a brake where you could put some accessories, something like that in there, that's going to help the flow of the plan a lot. This space, because we're talking about that basement, we're benefiting from the basement a lot because at least we don't have to lop off 30 or 40% of this store space to be back room and storage and that kind of stuff. So we'll be able to do that in the basement. The stairs are going to definitely cause some problems with how we have things placed back here, because we have to leave an opening for them and it's going to be a big thing out of there. But at least we're prioritizing if we can move the stairs from up front, because that would change this area from useless to great.
Mhm.
So that'll be well worth it. Okay, so now here's the other big red flag that I saw, which is the spacing of this feature. So we've got a rough representation of a counter there that's like 10 feet long or so, just kind of basing it on Corey's plan. Then I put in a couple workbenches and a couple bikes on stands. The conversation is always like, do we need a repair stand that holds two bikes or one? I always plug the ones with two bikes in there because it's just so handy to be able to have you working on a bike here and then customer walks in to have a flat repaired and you can pop the other bike up there. They take up a little bit more room, but it's well worth it. And then when you put the walk space around the repair stand with the adequate spacing between it and the workstation there, the counter, and then you put walk and the adequate amount of space between that bike and the front counter there, that counter is like dead center in the space. So from the front door, as you walk in, you're just looking at the butt end of that counter, which is suboptimal.
No.
It's not great.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, and I'm sure we could do something to treat that situation a little bit better, but it's just odd. So we need to think this placement through a little bit more, and the stairs are going to impact that some. Maybe it's a matter of turning this feature 90 degrees so that this counter, instead of being parallel with that outside wall, is perpendicular to it. So you look at the front of it when you walk in the door as opposed to the side of it. Um, Actually, this kind of spot for the main transaction counter isn't bad actually, especially if we get rid of the stairs. Um, it suffers from a little bit of the same problem where you're looking at the end of it when you walk in the front door, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, Brian, I think, a couple really valuable things of looking at this model initially were I had kind of thought maybe the work stands would just have, one bike per work stand, and then quickly realized as you talked about it, it just makes sense to have it on each side that way. Like I said, if a customer comes in, you don't have to take another bike off the stand. Like you just have extra clamps there that you can throw a bike in and quick, go through and get somebody set up for a tune-up or or
Mhm.
do a flat repair or whatever. So I think that makes a lot of sense, but it does kind of push that counter out into what I would say is an awkward position in the middle of the space. So um, yeah, and the other thing I know we kind of briefly talked about was with a smaller space like this, do we even need a separate like transaction counter, or can we maybe make the service counter a little bit larger? Maybe, not just straight, but have a little bit of angles on the ends or something like that to make that the main transaction counter as well. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Um,
this has been so good to look at just to gain insight into well
even
how
just a
poor my
little,
model really was.
Oh, I like that, Brian. I really like that.
even just a little change like that kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
can make a huge difference to what we're looking at there. And that if you there's in fact I'm working on a couple stores right now that have this kind of a feature where one side of this counter is used for the primary transactions like the sales counter, and the other part's used for the service. So I'm never a fan of combining those features into one area of the store unless we have to, just for space sake, because we really want to spread people out. We want on a busy Saturday, we want all of the bodies that we could put on this map, we want them to be spread out and kind of having fun mingling with all the different parts of the store. And unfortunately, this kind of a scenario causes, a cluster of people in the middle of the store. But sometimes, there's pros and cons to everything. And sometimes the pro of having a minimized counter area that one person can uh, be standing at and watching the store and doing work on the bike and all that kind of stuff together means that thing makes sense. Okay, so another thought. Remember in Corey's original plan, there were the pink dots on the accessory things here and here in the plan. That was a little bit of a red flag without going back to that plan because all of the bikes were slid to the front in one long row, and then all the accessories were pushed to the back beyond the service department, which I think is bad. I don't know if that's feng shui. It's just a bad style because uh, anything behind this counter, anything further back than that counter, is a little bit less likely to be shopped because it feels like it might be back room. And if you think about yourself as a customer walking in the store, you don't want to go any place that you're not supposed to be at all. Like you, we would want to make sure that if we did do that, this area back here was super inviting and very clear that you wanted people back there. But a best practice for doing that wouldn't be to put all the accessories in the back. It would be to mingle the accessories up into the rest of the bike displays. That's what replacing the stairs is going to give us too. Like I see this as being a vital accessory wall that has a little bit of clothing and some great, repair parts and some great, I don't know, locks, lights, that kind of stuff on there.
Can
Because
I
those are good things to have near the transaction counter so that people are inspired to buy little things like that.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at the space and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it becomes so crowded so quickly. What, why are we not moving that service department back by the bathroom? Because I know he wanted a digital service sign and that could be like on the wall, like, right that blank wall on the back. And I don't know why are we not moving that to the back of the store?
Only because we haven't gotten there yet, I think.
Oh, I've been hanging out with
I
you
feel
too
like
long.
no, I feel like this is going to scoot back when
Okay.
we start dealing with stairs and stuff like that. I don't know. It's at the point that we scratch these stairs, all the balls are going to be in the air again about how to arrange things because then the placement of the bathroom here is in question. Like, do we slide the bathroom to this corner, put a stairway entrance
That's
somewhere over in this area? If that's there, then it only makes sense to buddy this stuff up back there like that to allow us some better merchandising ability on this wall, whether that's bikes or accessories or whatever. to combine with that wall. So I feel like my gut would say that you're exactly right, Heather. I think that that's going to move back. And then we won't have that problem of anything behind the service counter feels like it's not retail.
I feel like our
Yeah.
listeners might be like, we want to chime in and give you guys some input, you know. So, but this is going to be an ongoing podcast feature, right? Like Corey, you want to come back and let us know like how the stairs end up and like we can't just end it here. People are going to be just like lost. They're not going to know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it again. Let's show the progress. And I'm with you, by the way. I think after seeing Brian's model, which I think that's the value of the model is, I mean, Brian kind of threw me a bone like, hey, this is where you said you wanted the service counter. Yeah, after seeing the model, it's like, no, that's not the best place for it. So that's where this is invaluable to be able to look at this ahead of time and be able to design a better space.
Uh, it's it kind of goes without saying, but because all these balls are going to be in the air right away again because of the stairs. Imagine if we had let the landlord rush through and put lighting in.
Problem.
They would have never ever put lighting in the right place because how could they? They didn't know that we were going to go through this thought process and blah blah blah. So they would never put the lighting in the right place. So they'd have to move it or you'd have to move it. And that's the value of having the plan before the landlord makes you sign on the bottom line or commits to what they're going to do inside the space.
Yeah, I think I've been very upfront with them, um, as far as, hey, we're doing some design work. We'd love to give you some input. And they've actually been very open to that. I mean, I realize maybe not every landlord would, but
Right.
because from their perspective, yeah, if we can do it once instead of maybe having to move lights later or add lights later or whatever, it's going to be better for everyone. So I think communication has been key, both with you guys at Fixture Lab and then also with the landlord as far as our plans and what we're thinking.
I'm excited to have Corey back later as we get through the process. He goes through the process. I don't know how involved we'll be in there, but it'll be fun, if nothing else, to see how the shop turns out. It's going to be great. And to have
Absolutely.
actual pictures that take the place of what we're looking at here in the model and the plans. It's going to be fun. One last little thing, because we probably got to go, don't we?
Yeah, we're close. Yep.
Okay, good. When we look at this, Heather, this is for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is the problem that you see? Because we've talked about this exact thing before.
Well, in our other episode we did on windows, and
Yes.
that blue bike just blends in with the other bikes, and there's no like backdrop or any way that you can make it so you have like a predominant window. So we have to do something there, right?
Yay.
Yay.
The bikes are transparent effectively. Like you look straight through them. So what you see in your mind's eye when you think about this great window with the bike on that stage there is you only see that bike sitting on the stage. That's what your mind sees. But in reality, you look right through that bike to the mishmash of all of these other bikes,
Mhm.
one on top of the other, and it's super cluttered and confusing and not pretty.
Brian,
So,
Brian,
go ahead.
Corey really likes to stock blue bikes.
I know. I don't know why he loves blue bikes
He's
so
wearing a
much.
blue
Hey, got my
shirt.
my blue shirt on today, so just all works.
Yeah, it is about the same color as your shirt. And for some reason, he's only stocking mountain bikes throughout the whole store. I don't get it.
We just like to shred here in Lamar's, so
Heather, we can only do so many things with people like Corey.
But it is true. It is true. It's just it looked like it is organized, but it doesn't look like it when you're looking at it like this.
Right. So we would want to either put a backdrop behind this bike to separate it from what's behind it, or we'd want to do something like at least move the bikes that are immediately, like, look how much better that looks,
Oh,
just without the bikes immediately behind it.
I love it. And then like some
So, or maybe there's a graphic back here on those bikes way back in the store because you realize you see through this bike straight to that graphic. I don't know. I don't know what the solutions are yet, but I think this is such a juicy little case study of all the problems that arise in the early process.
Corey, I'm so happy that you're okay being a juicy little case study. We love it. We're excited.
This is great. I've enjoyed it. It's fun to. It gets me more excited just talking through it again and looking at where this is going to go. So
I think there's lots of opportunity here, and Corey, we would sincerely welcome you back on the next episode so we can look at images, see how the build out is progressing. This is great, Brian. I felt like bringing Corey on and getting his, real time feedback on the situation was wonderful, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it too.
I hope so too.
I hope so too. So listeners, that's it. I think we're going to pause here today. We will pick back up with Corey next time. If you're listening, if any of this kind of like hit you somewhere, stimulated a question, if you want to even give us feedback to pass along to Corey, design@nbda.com. We're happy to do that. I know there's probably a bunch of listeners now, Corey, that are like on your side. They're pumped for you. They're imagining if they were you, what they would do. So I think
yeah,
it's really, really cool. Brian,
I,
thanks for all the images. That was great.
No, thank you. Thanks, Corey. This was awesome.
yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. And yeah, if any shops out there have ideas or whatever, I'd love to hear them. Or if you ever make it to Lamar's, you have to get some ice cream and then swing on by the new bike shop. So
I love it. I love it. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. Share your favorite episode with friends. And don't forget, if you were driving or riding a bike or walking the dog or whatever, listening to this, please check out the YouTube version. All of those photos, you get to see us. You get to see Corey's blue shirt. Lots of great things there. Brian, happy birthday. Thanks for all you do to support specialty bicycle retailers. And Corey, thank you for being our first guest. Yay!
thank you.
Where'd this week go? Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.